We're Indie Attack, coming at you with a game we've already talked about on Indie Attack before. I'm Woody.
And I'm Kelson.
And the game we have already talked before is Tower of Heaven. Now, to be fair, we talked about this back in the Dark Ages, when it was Chicho and myself, and not Kelson and myself.
Right. Which I shudder to think about.
Now that Kelson's here, I want to play Tower of Heaven with him, because Tower of Heaven is one of my favorite indie games.
Hmm.
It is a game where you play as a little kind of just pixel creature, and you go up a tower. And it's a platformer. And the gimmick of the game is that you are sort of conversing with God, who apparently lives at the top of the tower. And God hands down rules for you to follow as you go up the tower.
Yes.
Now, you start off as kind of like typical video game convention rules. Like, you can't touch yellow blocks, or you will burst into flames and die.
Right.
And then they start getting a little more, like, mean.
Mm-hmm.
And a little more creative.
Mm-hmm.
You know, you can't touch the sides of blocks. So then precision becomes a huge part of the game.
Right. You can't go left.
Move left.
Mm-hmm.
Which necessitates, you know, some... I don't want to say what every single one of the rules you get set upon you is, but they necessitate some really creative platforming.
Yeah.
Specifically the ones that limit how you can move. Because you need to look at the rulebook and follow it to the letter. And that's often the kind of thing where you can find loopholes in the rules. So while you may not be able to move left, you can still move left using other means.
Right, if you're clever.
And,
yes.
you know, you immediately have to figure that out right when you start.
It's a game that makes you... that does a really good job of making you feel smart when you're able to figure out how... especially, like, the moving left one. A few of them in particular, you just feel pretty great when you're able to find the workaround.
There's one where, you know, you get it and you like, this is just, you get it and it's like, this is just total bullshit. Then you figure out what you're supposed to do.
Yeah.
It's one of those moments.
Right, yeah. It simultaneously convinces you that it's impossible, but then also manages to enable you to figure out a solution, you know, even though it seems impossible, which is pretty cool. And it's quite hard, though. It is, you know, it's a challenging game.
It's you say it's hard your first time through, definitely.
Right.
And I don't want to like diminish any difficulty you have. I don't find it all because like I played through it once when I played with Chicho, and I played through it a second time for this, and then I went back through and played like you can unlock a speedrun mode, and I played through that like. It's one of those games where once you realize, like, you get how your physics work and you really kind of feel out the character, it doesn't really seem that hard.
Sure.
And, you're like, if you're really experienced in platformers, you might not have a lot of trouble with this. But, I think it's about the right difficulty, and I think it's about the right length. You know, I think it takes about 30 minutes to beat your first time.
Yeah, I would say so. I got to the second to last level, so, like...
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then, there are actually 2 endings to this game, too. That one of them hinges on finding there are secrets hidden all over the tower, and they are also, in addition to the platforming, they are creative secrets, too.
Yeah, I found a couple of those, and I thought it was fun to find them.
Yeah.
Just sort of like, it felt like, you know...
What happens when I keep going this way?
Exactly, yeah, it's like, oh, this platform is still moving. That's interesting. Yeah.
And then, one point we have not mentioned yet, well, 2 points, I guess.
Mm-hmm.
Is that the art style is like Game Boy-esque, I think is what it's going for. Mm-hmm. It's the, you know, kind of gray, brown, and black.
Yeah.
Which is it's an art style that by all means should be horribly ugly.
Right.
But I've always really liked it, and I think it's done really well here. And then in addition to that, this has some incredible music. Like, approaches like best indie game chiptune ever.
Yeah.
Levels of like how good the music in this is.
Yeah, I found it really good looking. I agree. I feel like the Game Boy art style just like I think it looked worse on the original Game Boy, you know, but like now, but like
now that you can, cool, because you can have the bad Game Boy art at a higher resolution.
Exactly, because the palette is cool and very specific, and like nothing looks like that, and it looks great here. I agree, and yeah, the music's dope for sure. Like it had me pumped up.
And I've mentioned before, I kind of have a personal preference for games where you fight like celestial creatures, or like a game where the final, like I've always say, a game where your final boss is Satan.
Right.
That's what I want my final boss to be, and the whole story of this game is basically centered around that.
Yeah. It's like,
so even though there is a light story, I actually really liked it.
Yeah, it's like you approach the tower and it's like, oh, you want to climb the Tower of Heaven, huh? Like it's pretty sassy deity, like you don't even know what you're getting yourself into, and like
you don't even know, bro.
Yeah, exactly. Which it is fun.
So needless to say, this is like a huge recommendation from me.
Yeah,
This is a few years old at this point, and like I'm kind of surprised it's not out for a lot of download services. I think this is a game that you could probably port really easy to a bunch of stuff, and charge a couple of bucks for, and maybe make some money like that. But otherwise, yeah, check it out. Once you beat it, you get a speedrun mode where it keeps track of your time you spent through the whole game. You also get a level editor mode, so you can make your own levels.
Oh, that's cool.
Should you choose to do that. But yeah, it's a nice, really fun, fleshed out platformer.
Definitely.